The New York Rangers somehow got more embarrassing as they drop another must-win game, getting absolutely shut down and with all of their problems on full display. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder just to hit that subscribe button. About 68% of you who watch these videos are not actually subscribed to the channel. So again, if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with your New York Rangers, as disappointing as this season has been and as disappointing as this game was, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It is free at the end of the day, and of course you get to stay up to date with everything going on with your favorite team. But unfortunately, the Rangers letting fans down right now, and there's mixed reactions all over X and Twitter, whatever we're calling it these days, and on social media, Reddit, whatever, about the way the team is playing right now. They definitely have some problems the last little while that we're going to get into in this video, but this game was not a good one, and it's looking like the playoffs are slowly slipping away from this team game by game. The rest of the season, there are 6 games left on the schedule for the Rangers. They are against teams like the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Florida Panthers, the Carolina Hurricanes. It's not looking like it's going to get any easier. 2 of the 6 games are against the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are red hot, white hot right now in the Atlantic Division. If you look at the box score from today, a bunch of zeros. We do have a couple -2s. JT Miller, not with a great performance today. The Rangers kind of getting punked by Timo Meier in this game. Not something you want to see. So, again, a pretty poor performance. And we're going to get into a video clip. But so many, A, turnovers from a lot of players. B, how many 2-on-1s or 3-on-1s did the Devils have in that second period? I lost track. I think it was like 4 or 5. Absolutely insane for a game where the Devils were only up 1-0 at the time. Why are you pinching so often? Why are there so many odd man rushes for a team and coach that says, hey, we don't have any problems with our defensive structure? There's nothing wrong with the defensive structure. It's just about the work ethic and the buy-in and all that, which is way worse if you ask me. If nobody's buying in, you have nothing. But how do you have so many 3-on-1s, 2-on-1s, odd man rushes, whatever they may be, in a game against the Devils, who are missing a lot of really good players, honestly? Like, the Devils are missing Jack Hughes, a couple defensemen that have been out for a long time. They've been dealing with injuries the entire season, and, you just made it way too easy for them. And the New York Rangers have a huge problem, and it's their power play. And it's not just the power play, it's the special teams as a whole. The penalty kill is not great either, but it's definitely the power play that is much worse. The New York Rangers are now 2 for their last 45 on the power play. Nobody's making that much of a big deal about it. We only started making a big deal of it the last couple of days. The Rangers have scored 2 power play goals on their last 45 attempts on the power play. That is absurd. That is ridiculous. You're never going to win hockey games that way. You are quite literally losing hockey games because of your inability to score on the power play. If you can put up like an extra 2 goals a game, which is what we know this team could do dating back to last year with the skill, I guess they just can't do it anymore. I guess they are not that. But I will say, in terms of the power play in this game, Power Play 2 looked a lot more dangerous than Power Play 1. Power Play 1 literally got scored on. The Rangers, that's another thing I wanted to get into. The Rangers are literally being outscored, this is from Johnny Lazarus, over the past month when they're on the power play. The Rangers are being scored on more than they're scoring on other teams while the Rangers are on the power play over the last month. They've scored 2 and given up 3 over that span. That is absurd. That is so ridiculous. They have to get going here. This is a major problem if they have any hope of making the playoffs. And I know, I can see it already in the comments. The playoffs are done. They were never going to make the playoffs. You're still right there. It could get a little ugly depending on what Montreal does tonight, right? With a 4-point swing potentially here now at this point. But you're still right there in the mix, and you should be taking advantage of certain opportunities like being on the power play. But like I was saying, Power Play 2 was looking a lot more dangerous than Power Play 1, but yet they're still not being played like Power Play 1, right? What are we doing here as a coaching staff, as a coach, a head coach, calling players to go out there? If they're not playing well, they shouldn't be playing. That is just the basics of hockey. So don't quite understand that anymore. I think Brendan Othman, who has been playing well as of late, I have to say, the reaction sums it up really. I mean, this is like, what do you do at this point? It's 4-0. You needed to win this game, and you didn't score a goal. You're not going to win a game if you don't score a goal. So the last thing I wanted to talk about before, a couple more things as well, but one of the last things I wanted to talk about here is K'Andre Miller. I'm not sure this team can re-sign this player. He hasn't been good this year. His agent wants a significant raise for the player. I don't know if that's changed over the course of, almost the entire season since we last heard that, which was probably in November or around November. I don't know if you can do that. This player doesn't have much hockey IQ. I think that's I think you can work with a lot of players if they have hockey IQ. I don't know if you can work with players that do not see the game properly, cannot play the game properly. So, again, I think that he has all the tools, but unfortunately, you can see it out there that, he has very little hockey IQ, which is unfortunate because, again, he has all the tools. He has the size, all of that, and it's really unfortunate. And, if you look at some of the goals from tonight, too, and I wanted to point out this one, I mean, just standing around, this is Soucy, of course. I'm not picking on K'Andre Miller here, but it's the defense as a whole, right? I mean, there's no way this should happen, right? And right before this was another odd man rush, which I was talking about earlier in the video. There's no way that this should be happening. And again, you go down 3-0 with this goal, like absolutely crush any hopes of coming back. And, from Brendan here, and there's a lot of reactions, and I'm not going to tell you how to feel. Let me know in the comments how you feel about the team. Maybe you're still optimistic. And for the most part, I think I've been way too optimistic at times this season, but that's just the way I like to be and look at and view at, the teams that I cheer for. But, the most unlikable team I've watched in my life as a Rangers fan. Can't wait for the season to end and them not to make any changes. That's one thing I am worried about. No changes this offseason because we know this doesn't work and they're getting older. So something has to give there in that regard. And one thing I wanted to point out from this article, this post-game article from Vince Mercogliano, who's been doing great work all season. Thank you, Vince, for covering the team in a season that hasn't been great. And I do feel bad for guys like Sam Rosen as well, who have to deal with this in, his farewell tour. But they failed to meet the challenge against the New Jersey Devils on Saturday and have now been outscored by a combined 9-0 margin at Prudential Center this season. Absolutely horrible. But the thing I wanted to get to about the article is the power play, and we'll wrap up with this. And despite Peter Laviolette essentially saying that there's a lot of things that we've tried, he's trying different things, rolling out different players on the power play, a bunch of different things, and saying that it's not that bad. We're just going to tweak a couple things. It extended being terrible into this game, and the changes have revolved around rotating the same 6 players in the 5 spots available in the top unit. Rotating players around, like, you know what? Maybe Trocheck will go to the bumper this time. It's not going to change anything. You need a change of personnel. Like, it's stale. It's stagnant. It's not working. Power play 2 looks significantly more dangerous, and we're getting more chances, even with K'Andre Miller back there on the point. It looked like they were way more dangerous. The one other thing I noticed on the power play that I did not want to forget before we wrapped up this video is it felt like they didn't want to pass to Gabe Perreault. I don't know what's going on with that. The kid can score. We know that. Maybe not at the NHL level yet, but it's going to come. Didn't look like they had any interest in feeding him the puck, but power play 2 looked way more dangerous than power play 1. So, he's not doing anything like no big shakeups or anything like that. And I think that's not good, right? He is reluctant to change anything. And I think that's something that's got to be reviewed in the offseason. That's all I got to say about that. But let me know in the comments what you thought about this game. It's looking like the playoffs are slipping away. Honestly, I said earlier in the video, slowly. It's happening rapidly at this point. If the Montreal Canadiens win tonight, it is not looking good for the New York Rangers. But we'll keep you updated here on the channel. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this game, the Rangers' future, and what they'll do in the offseason with the coaching and maybe even the general manager. Let me know in the comments what you think. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.